Good evening and welcome. Monday Live, 6 p.m, our usual spot here at Precision Golf. Simon, part 2 of the Gamer Driver.
Yeah,
tonight,
new toy.
Yeah, tonight we are choosing the head that you are going to fit with the driver. So for those that may not have caught last Monday, where did we end up with the driver shaft?
So went through about, I narrowed them down from earlier in the day, had about 8. Went through some various shafts and narrowed them down to the VA SYNYSTR 65 stiff in all its glory.
Is it just because you want to have something with SYNYSTR on it?
No, I'm entering both parts of the shaft and the head, a fitting bit as agnostically as I can. I just want the one that works. But if it boils down to 2 working really similarly, then I will go on what I'm going to look for. Potentially what feels more stable, because relative to my M4, out the middle I'd be surprised if he beat ball speed out the middle because they've been limited for 20 years. However, it might nick a couple of miles an hour, but if I'm going to beat that, it's through forgiveness. So I want to feel like I'm gaining something over it. So it might come to, if they're both great, it might come down to, I've never been massively brand oriented. So it might come down to just what I like the feel of better. Won't really be a look thing. Okay, I do care what it looks like. I wouldn't play a square driver unless it really was 20 yards long.
You mean you wouldn't have a Callaway Fusion? That was a Callaway Fusion, the square back one.
The square one, yeah. Had it not spun like a 3 wood potentially, but no. So if it comes down to that, then I will go completely subjective. But I think objectively, we'll find something.
Brilliant. Well, if you've got questions, we've got the usual YouTube chat screen up on our TV here, so we can fire away. My role this evening is to heckle and ask any questions that you may have.
Same as usual then.
Yeah, same as usual. Yeah. We're also live on Instagram. Any questions there, James will be able to fire them over to us as well.
And he's got even more things to look at now on both Instagram and YouTube. It's looking even more relaxed than normal.
Multitasking.
Yeah. Briefly, Charlie Hull second. Good effort, Pebble Beach.
Good effort. Good effort. I think Charlie is a fascinating individual as a golfer. I think the way Charlie applies herself, I don't know Charlie, outside looking in, it is playing with her mates, having a blinking good time, travelling the world. Practices around the corner at Fox Hills quite a bit now. Just enjoys the game for what it is. Almost still got that amateur swashbuckling, go find it, look about her.
That's a great terminology for actually swashbuckling. Yeah, because she's just got to go. I remember when she came out on tour, when she played Solheim Cup in the States, and it was just a revelation because she just had to go get it, man. She just went for it. And I think we all like seeing that actually, rather than just sort of, especially in the ladies' game. Someone's just going to go for it because it is a, for want of a better phrase, it has been a more kind of measured approach. Obviously, less speed and power, and that's what the men's game has. That's different to everything else, just the length they hit. But actually, the women's game has always been so impressive for the control, the strategy side of it, short game. But she just goes and gives it some, which is great. Big time. Yeah.
So you have a great second place for that. I think it's nice to see. Made $1 million too. I mean, that's gonna go a long way in some Gucci handbags and shoes. Well, no, it's just what she has. There's nothing sexist about that. Niels Axelson, nice to have you along, Niels, and Dave Hurley, welcome. Mark Griffin, yes, great to see Rasmus Højgaard get across the line in Denmark.
Yeah,
good win.
Good timing as well, potentially.
Yeah, I saw him and his brother, I believe, out in the Dominican Republic at where Wallace won at Corrales.
Right.
Got to follow him. There was no one there. It was great to see him up close and personal. Good, really strong player. They've been good for a while, haven't they? Really feel like they're arguably the next Westwood, Donald Poulter kind of grouping for the Ryder Cup going forwards. I think we're in a funny place on the European Tour, DP World Tour, who the next crop of Ryder Cuppers are, but it was great to see someone that is clearly the brothers are clearly very, very strong golfers.
They had that kind of surge, and then a little bit of quite enough. Whether it's that pressure of Ryder Cup, are they going to make Ryder Cup? And it'd be great to see them come back up and one of them make it, if not both of them.
100%. And the PGA Tour,
PJ, I haven't got a clue because I had a tournament myself this weekend, and there was a Grand Prix on, and to be honest, I paid no attention to it.
Brilliant, and neither did I.
Honest.
So I don't know who won either. We'll skip on. We'll skip.
Although I do know that Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, and Ricky Fowler were at Sunningdale on Saturday.
Oh, were they really?
Had, 67, 65, and 66 between them, I believe.
Really? Is there a tournament on next week then?
Scotland, isn't it? Yeah.
No, Scotland. Is it Scotland?
Oh, well, they're at Queenwood today doing a pro-am.
Oh, are they?
Or they weren't, but there were a load of them doing. I think the one they did at Adair Manor the other year.
Ah, of course,
so
yeah.
Rory and
JP McManus,
and
yeah.
all
JP
over there.
McManus, yeah. It's the British Open next week, right?
Or is that week after next? Scottish Open first. I don't know, my dates are all over the place at the moment.
I thought it was, no, it's 20, what's the date?
With the 10th?
No, it's next week, the Open. This week's Scottish.
Okay, I'm
This
getting
week's Scottish,
my
yeah, next
weekends and things are just all gone.
All right, well,
I'm
let's...
so excited about how you drive.
Yeah, I know. Well, let's. I assume you've been hitting balls all afternoon.
No, I did a little bit of a warm-up, but I've gone cold now, so it's just like being on the first tee.
Perfect. So where are we going to start?
I've got Mark Griffin's comment, place a bet, it's a Titleist TSR. Strikes me that, I'm assuming I'm the kind of guy who likes a classic shape, and TSRs are one of the top performers.
I thought Mark was talking about me there.
Very true, well, no. Very true, the TSRs have been a big, Titleist a big jump up in performance. I think they've always been that sort of player's head, but we were kind of giving up a bit of ball speed or a bit of spin strength to play them, whereas actually the TSRs have really come on.
Mega.
Be really good,
I love my TSR drive.
And yeah, I'm definitely prefer the kind of I like the classic shapes, but you know, if something's better, I'll play it.
Yeah. All right.
Right.
Well,
So
no time like the present. Let the heckling begin.
So I'm going to start with a ping.
One question I've got: what's the variability on head weight on all of these? Because we've talked a lot about weight in the shaft and obviously weight on the head.
Yeah.
That's how it's going to make the shaft perform. I would have thought that we would have gone, or you would have gone about choosing a head first and then a shaft, but you chose the other way around. Give us some insight why you went that direction.
So reason for that is you can change the head weight. You can't change the shaft weight. So you can kind of find a way of making. Most of these have changeable weights on them now, but for any bit of the bag, I'd do shaft first, because you don't get, in my opinion, there are others that will do it a different way around, it's just the way that I view it, is that in order to get a true performance out of the head, you've got to be able to deliver the head consistently and true to how you move. So if you pick a head based on a shaft that isn't optimizing timing, then you might be picking it around false impact dynamics. So for me, you've got to choose a shaft first, and then you can make a true judgment on the head, forgiveness, flight, spin, loft, all that sort of things. So
you chose the shaft with, and are you aware of the head weight that you were using the last time we chose?
So that was one of the things I kept the head weight very constant last time around. I used a TSR2, just gets a neutral launch, neutral spin, because I was just picking on timing and striking. So the TSR2 is not one of these, because for me it's a little bit spinny. And so these are all some of the lower spin models, because that's just what I need from a flight point of view. Where was I going with that one? I've gone off on a tangent.
Yeah, no. So my question, head weight. Yeah,
head weights, they do vary quite a bit.
They do, yeah.
So even between, so this one's going to start with a 430 LST, and that head is heavier than the max. So got to use a different weight at the back. So there are some reasonable variations, although they're slightly softer than they used to be. So, for example, the TaylorMade, the Stealth 2 Plus, is a bit heavier than some of the others. So you've got to make, when in the build, and sometimes this has got a lighter weight in the back and a bit of lead tape, so I've got them all as close as possible to spec as I can. So that was what I was doing earlier on, is just make sure that I'm not having to fiddle around, waste time doing all the weighting.
Sure.
So I've got them all to a point that's swingable and playable, and then we can really judge them on how they actually play.
Brilliant. So Mark Griffin, are pings still generally the heaviest heads as they always were?
They softened off a little bit. The lighter crown in the LS has helped that, but they are some of the heavier ones. But that's because their general spec is slightly higher balanced shaft, and so the theory heavier head, more momentum, better energy transfer, which is a great theory.
Got it.
Some people it'll work for, but others it won't. So that's always been the way they've their stock shafts are all mid to counterbalance shafts.
Got it.
So that's just the way from that engineering side, that's the way they've always been. The TaylorMades have generally been fairly strong, certainly the Plus. Anything with a slidey weight or a weight port, there's more structure to the head they've got to build in, so generally they've been a bit heavier, but now they're working at kind of, you know, that whole kind of composite crown wraparound, lighter materials, they can put the weight where they want to, so it's almost now where they choose to make the head a bit heavier or not.
Interesting. Well, no time like the present, is there?
There we go.
Give it 2 turns and a swish, my friend.
Log in the head, because then we can get some relevant comparisons later on. So, fresh sleeve of balls.
Fresh sleeve of balls as well.
Yeah. Show them that knackered old things.
Dear me.
Right.
Fresh off the back of a podium finish at the weekend.
Yeah, starting to feel old though. You know.
You're looking at it as well, to be fair.
So thank you very much. Yeah, why keep your mouth shut and stop people?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
Oof.
So the one thing with the pings are very stable. The one thing where I was saying earlier about trying to get, if I'm going to get more performance, one of the things I really want to get is the feeling that I can kind of get away with a miss. So
Dave Hurley says, what balls are you using?
Pro V1. So partly I want to get the best data for this. My current gamer is the TP5, but I want to make sure we're not missing spin rates, things. I'll do, might fine tune, once I get to the right one, I might fine tune loft with that ball slightly, but the Pro V1 and the TP5 are very, very similar from a performance point of view.
And your current driver at the moment is 8.5 loft.
Yeah.
What are you starting as a base loft with your?
So this one's the 9, just turned down a little bit. So it's similar, and they're all going to be similar.
Sure.
Because I have a little bit of angle of attack, I have a little bit of ad loft historically. I'd rather see the flight naturally a bit flatter and flight up a bit than high and knock it down.
Right.
Just always preferred a slightly stronger flight as a default. So it's a little heely, but good. Well, thought it was a bit heely. Yeah, very stable. Okay, that's good. I'll give that one more. That's solid. 146 efficiency, fraction of heely.
Yep. Yeah, well, I mean, confirmed what you feel. I think that's the important part, isn't it? When you're playing with a driver, you want to be able to feel where it's coming out of. People don't appreciate how strong the gear effect of a driver is.
So it's a very solid set of numbers. I think as a head, it's certainly heady, as you can say, hair low on the face. So the good side is that the strike points are all where they feel like.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that feels like a very safe head. Feels like it's not going to get away from you. There's nothing unexpected happening. Really feels very stable, really steady through the wall. Yeah, like that.
So Dave Hurley says that little talk needs to be an advert for fitting versus buying a club off the shelf. Thank you very much, Dave. Glad we're helping. Mark Griffin, one thing I've heard is that since more rotation-based swings have been promoted within the tour, that a lot of players are going lighter to go faster. Have you seen a change in tech? And has it made a difference in fitting?
It hasn't made a difference in fitting. Well, on what the tour guys are doing, I guess it has and it hasn't. It hasn't in that you're still fitting the person in front of you for how they swing. They've definitely, where the tour players are now going for maximum speed and distance, and yes, the swing being more rotational now, heavy just drops in behind. So they're looking to maximise speed and face control. Lighter helps, but they're still in the kind of a lot of them are now in the 60s rather than 70s gram-wise on shaft weight.
Yeah.
And materials now from a structure point of view are better, so they can go lighter and not lose that feeling of stability through the ball.
Sure.
So it's sort of twofold in that respect.
Yep.
Is it changing what people on the fitting mat in front of us we do? Not really. It maybe makes it easier to accept people, stronger hitters, understanding that heavier isn't always better potentially.
My question to Mark Griffin, one back at you, Mark. When you say more rotation-based swings, articulate in the best way you know how, of what that means to you. I'll be interested to hear.
Oh, look at that. Yeah,
Matt,
two-way testing.
Two-way conversation. Yeah. Matt Hyatt says 2,000 spin on that strike. That's almost too low for a heel strike. No. We've got a backseat fitter driver in here.
No, it's interesting. I think that's. I like the fact that it hasn't flared the spin up.
Matt was talking about.
You definitely don't
that
want
one there.
The one that knuckles, but the face was closed as well, so it was face closed and a bit heely. So yeah, but I mean, certainly I'd rather see it. I'd rather see it there than 3,000. But what you don't then want is the one that turns over goes to 1,500.
Yeah,
so.
I think as a player at 2,000, you're still enjoying some flight out of that, aren't you?
Yeah, and the key thing is at my speed. There are caveats to it, but yeah.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you swing at 85 miles an hour, that's too low, right?
It could get a little, with that launch, yeah.
Yeah, but at 2,000, it's still spun up at 2,000, and it's drawn.
Yeah.
I think as a player, as soon as you whack one out the heel, if the thing flares up, that's a hideous feel.
Yeah.
If it comes out the heel and it's still drawn, you know it hasn't been ridiculously out the heel.
Yeah.
And it still had flight, isn't it? So yes, it has come out the heel, but it hasn't had the reaction that the ball have cut and offset the 3 degrees of negative.
Exactly, and that's
apart.
then for kind of carry distance consistency. If you hit the driver, you want to make sure it goes longer than your 3 would have done.
Yeah.
So
yeah, interesting.
Right, so Stealth 2 Plus here. So I've played TaylorMade drivers for a while. I was M4 for 7 years, and then what was I before that? Can't even remember what it was before that. I did play Cleveland for a little bit, highball.
Yeah.
Can't remember what I played before that one. God, shows how long ago it was.
Graham Foster says using the Pro V1 because they can be tracked with TrackMan and the dots. TP5 doesn't show up.
It does show up, but what I don't want misspins in between. It's just easier from this point of view.
Yeah.
So quite a different shape. Not that it bothers me, but it is quite a different shape.
That looked
Yeah,
nice.
the composite face. It's a very different sound.
That looked nice.
It is. And it is a stable feel. I think with this head there tends to be what we have seen is if your miss tends to get into that heel side, it hasn't been the best, but actually, like that one's a reasonable flight, a little bit higher in launch, but interesting to see where that ball speed is. Okay. That'll been interesting. That was seemed a little bit low, yeah. So now that's not the worst flight in the world. That was a little lower on the face, and up goes the spin that little bit more. So, and that was sort of noticeable that went up a little bit. I'm going to give it one more. What I'll do is I'm going to do kind of 3, unless there is an absolute rot. I'm going to do 3 with each. I'll get through those. What's interesting, I'm noticing miss-hit a little bit more with that, which isn't a bad thing, but there is an element where am I going to notice enough of a difference over that? It's actually performance-wise is absolutely fine, but yeah, there's this almost the safety net of not really. You've mishit it, but you don't feel as much of a wobble from the head. So,
your thoughts on those 2 impact locations? I mean, it's quite a shift that.
A little bit, yeah. To be honest, I felt like I struggled to find strikers easily out the TaylorMade. It'd be interesting to kind of go through and see which ones just feel easier to middle.
Yeah. Well, Mark's come back with, from what I understand, it is relying in the body rotation to square the face up rather than timing with the hands, and so more consistent is the goal. I might be wrong. Well, I've got to tell you, Mark, body rotation doesn't square the face up. Hands will always square the face up. Body rotation will help, but absolutely won't square the face up. Arm height will really ultimately define more rotational golf swings. The higher your arm plane is, the more you have to pull and lower the arm plane down back to where it started. So flatter arm plane will really relate to more of a rotational golf swing. High arms would be less rotation.
TSR3. Let's go TSR3 now. I think, I would interpret the comment as more a question of there was that older school lateral drive versus what looks a more rotation.
Yeah.
I think it used to be that kind of drive and then square it, which is a horrible old action that we all got taught.
The leg action drove because it was stalling the body's rotation to drop the arm height down.
Got it, yeah.
Because in old school, you know, if you're rotating with a high arm plane, you would swipe across it, wouldn't it? So if you've got a high arm plane, moving laterally gives you time to get the arms back down onto the lower plane. Yeah.
Right, TSR3. Oh, and Dave earlier asked about hitting different shot types. I wouldn't be doing that yet. And actually that's more the shaft side of things, but I would, if I get down to a couple of heads, that's when I might start to look at does one. Yeah. But I think less and less now, because I'm fortunate, I'm going to open up for criticism, because I'm a good 3-wood player. I've got a 3-wood I can get out of there 260, 270. I'm not looking to nerdle driver into play. I might hit a fade, I might hit sort of standard slight draw, but I'm not jimmying around with this club. This is just this is stand and deliver kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think you with the driver you want to pull the trigger and hit it hard and let the flight take care of itself, don't you?
Well, so it's interesting. I would have said not middled and ball speeds up. Club speed and ball speeds up a little, which is interesting. Yeah. Maybe a little open face. Yeah, it's interesting. Flight went up a little bit. So with the TSR3, I've actually gone the 8 degree. Okay. Felt relative to that TaylorMade I just hit, felt easier to find the middle. Felt like I didn't have to find strike with it. Right. It's
this is the Titleist.
This is the Titleist, the TSR3. Minute differences in centre of gravity and construction. You know, for me, possibly having that extra weight at the back, just I've always swung front forward weighted heads a little bit better, a little quicker. But the moment the weight goes back, potentially that might just affect my ability to square it or to feel like I can square it. So. A little bit tugged, but that was hit. I mean, ball speed's up immediately with that. So, to your comment earlier, seeing that one, which I knew I overdrew a bit, and see it retain 2,000 spin, that makes me quite happy seeing that, because that's the one I don't want to go 1,600, 1,700 revs. Yeah. Let's go one more of that. Not the best strike, maybe a little bit heely, but ball speed's good out of that. Matt Hyatt will be sitting there grinning right now because he predicted this head.
The TSR3. Well, that's what good players use. That's what good players use.
Yeah. He's saying that, ladies and gents, because that's what he uses as well.
That's what good players use. That I've never had a driver that has felt so delicious.
What is notable with that, and chatting to one of our other fitters, Nick, earlier on, was actually how the consistency of ball speed, and this is where Titleist, you've always had to give up a little bit of forgiveness, I think, doing a switch, give up a little bit of forgiveness to play them. They've never been quite as good across the face, I don't think, historically as other brands, but with that, giving that pretty close to just full effort, that's a good solid swing. Didn't feel like there was, I would say the ping still feels a little bit more stable, but the TSR3, you didn't notice the mishits, or didn't feel like they were punishing me as much as the TaylorMade was. It's marginal between them, but
I find it interesting that how much lower you struck it on the face with the G430 compared to the others.
The only thing that it could be with the carbon crown, slightly lower CG, possibly. Yeah. But as long as the strike point's consistent, so yeah. If you click on the tag, go to TS. I've got the TSR4 next. Ooh. Yeah, go TSR4 down there, and then just get rid of the 3. So TSR, I mean, so this one, I'm interested to see what happens with it. The fact that I said I want more forgiveness as a major part of it, the TSR4 doesn't really fit into that category. But
so what's the difference between the 4 and the 3?
So the 4 is smaller, a little bit deeper, a little bit smaller. You've got a forward mass. So in the sole of the club there, see there's that weight in the sole, whereas with and that allows you to move the CG forward, and that makes it in principle a bit lower spin. In theory, higher ball speed actually as a result as well. But it's a more compact shape too. Right. So it was always, the real players. Adam Scott used the TSI4. He's about the only person that could. But it was so unforgiving.
Right. Okay.
Whereas this is a lot better. But
it does look smaller from here.
Yeah, it is. It's a really, talking about the classic. It's a beautiful old school classic shape.
Yeah. Bit like yourself.
But it's built for comfort, not speed. Yeah. I thought I'd get that in before you did. But it almost is funny, having hit the others, it does look quite small. Yeah. Not in a kind of worrying way, but it's noticeably more compact.
Those are words you don't want to hear on a Friday night.
Very different sound and feel. Very solid.
Very nice. And look, that's not the worst one out the bag, is it? Very nice. How did that feel?
Felt like a club of yesterday. I mean, really solid.
Right.
Because that weight's, it's a little smaller, the weight's a little close to the face. Nice. It's a different sound, but a really solid feel. I mean, I did hit it well, but really solid feel. That would be an interesting one to... Okay, not too bad on spin.
That's all right. That was Healy, right?
Slightly low, maybe a little bit heel, slightly. Yeah, I mean, it was marginally either way, but yeah, not middle. Yeah. Give that one more.
So we've got a few thoughts coming in.
Yeah.
So Mark Griffin, curious about strike on the TaylorMade. I've seen the guys on TXG manipulate strike with a shaft change. Is this something you have done? Could you explain why it might be good or bad?
If you're manipulating strike with a shaft change because it's how someone moves the shaft and therefore you move the strike point in the head, we've already done that with the first part. Yeah. So that shot, just to very quickly interject, that's the one that makes me, I mean, it's gone miles, but that makes me a little nervous seeing 1700 on spin.
Yeah. Off that strike as well, right?
Yeah, because I don't quite launch it. That's got. I mean, look, if we're going just longest, great. But
it's got wounded mallard written all over it.
Yeah, if I don't get that, if I get that marginally toe side, that's knuckling. So as much as that's a lovely feel, I'm going to put that to one side. Yeah, I think there are various ways of doing it. I think if you're hell bent on playing ahead, then you've got to do whatever you can to make it work. But that's not fitting. Yeah. No. You're trying to find out. It's not to say that you can't make the results work, but for me, I think you can make. So I've always felt that you can get the shaft right and the timing right, you can flow as freely as possible, and then you find the right tool on the end of that to get the best of everything. Yeah. So it's not to say that's the only way of doing it, that's just my particular belief on it. And I think you're more likely to get more consistent results that way as well. As long as the player's open to whatever head goes on the board.
Mark Griffin says, sorry about dropping in a rival. Absolutely no problem. We are friends of TXG, no problem at all.
No, not at all. They're great. So.
Yep, Niels Axon, I got fit into TSR3 earlier this summer. Sun based on TH. Not sure what that means. Matt Hyatt says, my lips are sealed until I see the final result. You're such a hedge better, Matt. The comment I must be good. Oh, because he must be good. Yeah. Right, got it. S. Forbes question, not driver related, that's all right. Thinking of getting a 57-degree wedge. What should I look out for if I was to get the 56-degree and weaken it to 57, or get a 58-degree and strengthen it to 57?
Okay. So obviously, if you add a degree add a degree of loft, you're going to add a degree of bounce. If you're going to take a degree of loft off, you're going to take a degree of bounce off. So if you de-loft it, you're going to offset it slightly more as well. So visually, you're going to move that leading edge away from the shaft line. So again, a good friend of mine likes seeing a bit of offset. I hate it on a wedge. So I would always be looking, if anything, to add a degree to keep it as far forward as possible. And he likes to de-loft it a bit. The only other thing to consider, if you're de-lofting, you're bringing that leading edge closer to the ground. So if you play softish turf and that leading edge is sharp, you don't want to be taking that down because you're sharpening that leading. It's marginally, but you're sharpening it. So there are a few little considerations, but the main one is
adding bounce, taking
bounce off. Yeah.
Graham Murray, good evening, Graham. Was Stuart fitted with the SYNYSTR shaft or something completely different in my TSR?
I mean, the Callaway suits the colours that Stuart wears. So I'm sure I'd love to have. I'm sure Stuart would love to have. That's his standard polo shirt colour. He's just gone demure this evening.
Listen, for a man that's pulled out his black and white shoes and not his clown feet this evening, I don't think you're in any situation to comment. But you're absolutely right. I do like a bright shirt. Yeah.
You've got a Diamana TB70.
There you go, Graham. I haven't got a clue.
So Stuart's through all that, I think, commendable work in the gym is bigger and stronger than I am, and requires more weight, dead weight in the shaft, but not the. So this one's more of a tip weighted shaft compared to the TB. So that's where, for me, that's why we can't swing each other's clubs. I have too little loft and too much tip balance, and he has too much dead weight and way too much loft. Yeah. So I'd hit his driver like a 3-wood, and I think smother hook. I
mean, we are the absolute reason why you need to be fitted, because we are exactly nuts and bolts, exactly the same speed, and we couldn't have two different, and like the data as well.
And horribly competitive both.
Yeah. We both deliver it with 2 or 3 degrees of upstrike, very neutral in face to path, and couldn't be miles apart, more miles apart with our drivers.
Mr. Warhound, thank you for saying hello.
Yes, Norwegian Warhound, best name on YouTube. Enjoyable as usual, just saying hello, time to get back to work. Well, thanks for dropping in. So we are now on to what club head have we got here?
Paradym Triple Diamond. So this one, now I've actually, because of, this is a low spin head, and so what I've actually done, where I've said I need a weight forward head, I put heavier weight at the back. Because this head has got a lot of weight at the front already, I don't want that knuckly one. So in order to kind of mitigate that knuckle spin that I know happens with the weight at the front, I moved it back a little bit. But this has been very good for ball speed this year.
With clients,
yeah.
I get very nervous and nervous when I hear low spinning head, because I'm a low spinner.
You don't have any spin anyway. So.
No, exactly,
Yeah, and that's why, again, you and I, totally different. I've always, now that I might be starting to do something along the lines of what you want me to do with the swing, I'm much quieter on flight and spin than I used to be. And I don't hook it anywhere near as much as I used to either.
That's a good thing.
So, this one's interesting. It has nothing on the top, which I don't I tend to use the face anyway to line up with, but yeah, it's a very different visual. Maybe slightly heel, slightly.
Let's have a little look.
Not a lot.
No,
slightly.
not much. Not much. Let's have a little.
It's got noticeably more, and I know this to be the case anyway, but this one's got noticeably more loft on. You can see more loft on the face, but that's because it's so darn low spin. So. That's a poor one. I've flipped that one. I'll give it one more. That's not a great one. It's not my finest swing. Good ball speed though. Okay. Okay, that was a bit more toe side. Okay, yeah. So that's the one that worries me a little bit, because that's a toe strike with an open face, and that's 1700. My shot's a draw. If I hit that on the toe and square it, that's going down to 1500, and that's running a long way into some trouble. So that, it's good. Its ball speed's good, considering where that strike was. That ball speed was good, but I just don't want to see the spin that way.
No. fascinating. I mean, fascinating to see. You know, you've hit it 9 millimeters. That's why I just brought up for the folks at home on the bottom right-hand corner here, highlighted by the arrow, just how far out the toe or the heel we're hitting it. That was 9 millimeters out the toe, and you know, it should have shown up a bit of a fade. The face to path value at positive 1.5 should have seen a fade. You've hit it 9 millimeters out the toe, and it's created a draw. And because it's come out the toe, that's why the spin rate has dropped.
Zero spin on it, yeah. And that again, for a lot of players, we spend our time trying to get spin off to keep the forward momentum, to keep it going towards the target and to get some distance. I'll get my distance through around the 2000 222 spin, just through ball speed. It's created some really nice numbers. If that was a middled hit with a slight draw bar, I'd still be slightly worried about that spin rate. So we're going to go to and again, actually, I can actually see the strike point's not as consistent. I know one of the swings are pretty ropey, but with all the others, other than the TaylorMade, that heat map for strike,
pretty consistent, right?
It's got that nice sort of hot red bit in the middle.
Yeah.
Whereas the Stealth Plus, it goes a little bit lighter coloured, and the Callaway again a little bit more of a spread. So I'm just not finding contact as easily.
So we've got
slightly left field one. This is the STZ230. Should be that one there. So actually pretty low spin head. This is the Mizuno head. Now, we don't do a lot of these. It is a slightly heavier head weight. So you know, Mizuno, much like Titleist this year, Mizuno have really upped their game. Now, whilst we do a huge amount of their irons, very, very strong year for Mizuno this year with their irons. Even though they do perform well, we don't do as many simply because it's very hard to be massively standout, and this brand has to be standout with the driver to get someone to buy it when you've got a Titleist or a TaylorMade or a Ping, you know, alongside it. It's like, you know, it's a brand people want to have to use the brand. Irons, that when we go Mizuno, yeah, great. There's still probably one more model that performs like this away from people actually buying into the fact that Mizuno make a good driver.
It's interesting. Do you think that's just tour presence?
A little bit.
Doesn't help that.
Validates it. When all their tour players in the past have been playing like they couldn't win. You know, Donald, when he was World #1, played a TaylorMade driver or a Titleist driver. You know, if you can't get it into your top player's bag, it doesn't give the visibility, and the visibility, I think, is what a lot of people see as being right. That's a good product. So that's why the driver and the putter are the two ones that they want to pay the players to have in the bag, and the ball, because the camera always zooms in on the ball. So yeah, if they're going to pay someone to use a product, it's because it's this one and the putter. Right. So very, very actually interesting shape. It's a much more rounded shape than the others. It's quite a nice shape, this.
Ooh,
came off it a little bit, a nice sound.
Ooh.
Too bad.
Not bad at all.
Considering. Stable feel, actually.
Sounded good.
A little bit out the heel.
That'll be
A
interesting.
little bit out the heel, I think.
8 mils.
Do you know, like the way I did that, I think. Well, no. But that's a strong number for out the heel still.
Yeah.
I mean, partly we saw that out of the SYNYSTR shaft last week. This was one that it held spin and ball speed better than anything else. Slightly heel side, so. Right, got under that a little bit. I'm gonna, just to be fair to it, that was tee height. Just gonna hit the one more. That one we can, I think.
Delete.
Yeah, because that one, it tee height had got up. That'll be unfair on ball speed. So. I think that's possibly the only thing with it. I'm finding it quite easy to strike high up the face.
Interesting.
It doesn't feel like I'm able to get as solid a hit out of it. It doesn't look as high, but it feels
high. Yeah.
And so like the last one, it's popping, and this is where sort of the first couple, like the second one, the numbers were good, but I don't want that flight. I want mid launch and strong, whereas that's up. So the ball speed's a bit weaker as a result as well. But I think with that one, if I was looking to get launch up without flaring spin up, so that launch is 15 degrees, whereas Paradym 13, 13, 13. So it's 2 degrees, degree and a half, 2 degrees higher.
More.
And it's just not a ball flight. It's a solid, really solid head actually, really solid feeling head, but it's not a ball flight I want to see.
No. So. Niels Axelson says Keith Mitchell is consistently around #1 in driving with Mizuno on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, and so I think they've definitely improved it a lot. I think it's it's if you, in my opinion, with that head, I think if you're a slightly lower launcher of the ball, that creates a bit of spin, which isn't a wonderful combination. Then actually that head, as long as you can handle the head weight, because it's a heavy-ish head, then that head will allow you to get a little bit more launch on it and keep spinning. A bit like the Paradym. If you put the weight forward on the Paradym triple diamond, you can go to a 10.5 weight forward, and you get launch through loft, but the head keeps the spin down. And that head's, relative to that head, I don't think measures quite as much, but relative to the amount of loft, kicks it up a little bit more. So interesting head from that point of view. Aerojet LS, top line, second from the left.
What are we feeling about this Cobra? They've been good performers in drivers over the last couple of seasons, haven't they?
Yeah, underrated as a brand. From probably sound like a broken record. This I think they've done more innovation than they've been given credit for over the years. It's quite an interesting look. I think that one, the kind of the weave on the top, but the
we're talking about the club,
that sort of leading edge bit into that. It's an interesting visual. So it's a very different look.
The new camera's coming into its own there, isn't it? Eh? Look at the confidence in in the camera work.
It's not a bad shape. It's just a very different look to the others, and it wants to, because of the. I'll put this back up here actually, because of the sole shape. So where the sole of it really scoops up. Is that a better position? Yep. Yeah, so it wants to sit that way a little bit. So it does have a tendency to sit open. So it settles onto its backside a little bit. Yeah. Which, again, for me, is not a bad thing. Being a left is the one I don't want to see. But some people do struggle with that because it wants to sit backwards. So, right. I've rotated that over a little bit. Solid sound. It's not as lively a sound as the others. It's a kind of a muted note.
It is. It is. That sounds like that's got some quite a nice crunchy sound if you were going to get it out the middle. But it's definitely. Tone-wise, it sounded a bit dead.
Doesn't
didn't
sound as fast. I mean, that was I flipped that one. That was I can't blame that on the head. Let's try and see if I can put a proper swing on. Yeah, off centre, one spin, but it's not. I'm not going to enjoy using that. And it's no disrespect to Cobra. They've put this strong on spin, but
and I think you feel it. But I think you feel it as a player, don't you? Almost straight out of the bag. I mean, the first one was okay, but you notice it as a player whether a drive is for you or not, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think there are some visual aspects that some players will pick up on. For me, that one just didn't find. I knew how it felt further off centre than that was, and from a confidence point of view, when we're going down to the minutiae that we are, there are going to be some players that if you catch the right spot on this head, it feels great. So we've had great results from it. When it's been good, it's been standout. But for me, that one, if I'm stood in the tee and I strike it there, I've always felt like if I'm striking a ball properly, the other stuff I can make work because I'm finding middle of the face. If I notice that if that feels that far off centre, then that's going to make me start to wonder what the hell I'm doing with my swing a little bit more. So for me, that one's just, I'll So we've seen great results with it, but for me, I'm going to put that to one side.
Nat Hyatt says, do you notice the slightly shallower shape behind the ball with the Cobra?
I think it's harder to because there aren't any face markings on it, so or very few. So by that, I mean with that, there's not an awful lot to pick up the depth on. So the way that I think partly because there's that wraparound face into crown and into the bottom, there's no real definition on the face like some of the others. You get you might get a paint line. So I'm trying to do this one up. You might get a paint line right just across that top edge that defines the top of the face. So not really, no. I mean, it's notably a different looking head, but I think it's because the face is a kind of a full kind of cup face. Not that's what they call it, but it wraps top face into the bottom. So you kind of you sort of lose the face definition a little bit.
I find that
dropping screws and things all over the place.
I find with my TSR 3, I like the fact that they have, well, again, classic Titleist, they haven't done too much with the top edge. They've been very, again, as we've spoken about.
It's an all titanium head. So the Cobra and the Callaway and the Ping, the TaylorMade, the Mizuno, they've all got composite in them. So actually, what they've got to take into account is the join, the bond between the metal frame and the composite, and then how that looks. That will influence what they can do with how the head looks, because Ping haven't got the turbulators on the top of some of the heads on the fairways because of that bond, the joint. They can't put them there because of that crossover. So not the case on the drive, that's more fairways, but that's an example of how the construction affects what they can do with some of the other elements and how they've got to put the bits together.
So James E said, I was halfway through typing how good the camera looks there, and I stole his line. So full credit to James there. He's been researching new cameras and lenses. He's absolutely all over it. Mark Griffin.
And James E is a phenomenal photographer himself as well. So
have you? Oh well, no wonder he says it's quite good then. He's trying.
Is that the only reason he's? Is that the only reason you're tuning in, Eej? Kind of see your camera work.
Mark Griffin says, "Man, I really need a fitting with you." Well, hit the link below, and you can access our diary. I've got the same problem with my current Ping G4. Can't see it. There's something in the way. 400. 400. 10.5 Tensi orange, 60 gram stiff launch at 15 plus, and 3,000 RPM or a bit more. Losing distance sucks.
It does. I mean, unfortunately, the shot data that you're describing there is very good for a 3-wood. So 400 wasn't the lowest spin head that was around at that point. Again, Ping, brilliant for consistency. If you're looking for something to be a fairway finder, Ping are renowned for it because of the stability of the head, performance across the face. That's what they're best at and have been best at. The LS, this year's LS is one of the first ones they've really got low spin out of. But yeah, it sounds like there's a dynamic loft. So head loft, and potentially head style issue combined there. But certainly loft. Of the heads we're going to be testing, I'm finishing up with the ZX7. So see with Strixon, where they got. We've got the LS head got slightly delayed. Is on its way in. So I might well that should be in short as well. Might give that a try, and then I can always post results for that after the 5 lower LS, which is the one that Brooks is using. I mean, their drivers have been getting better and better. So the 7's a smaller one, a little bit lower launch. The 5 for me definitely currently pops it
a bit more. James he says he's guilty of the lens advice. Mark Griffin, tell us what shape of shot you hit. Is it left to right or right to left?
Right to left. Well, neutral now.
No. I was asking Mark Griffin what shape. What shape? Yeah,
sorry.
No,
you're carried away with it, thinking everything's at me.
All good.
Oh, that was
There's a slight drop kick.
Yes, not my finest. I mean, take it. On course, you take that.
Yeah.
Again, very different sound.
Yeah.
Really different, really kind of harder note off the face. I won't judge it on that ball speed. That was operator error.
I will delete that one.
So I made sure I didn't spoon under it and thin that one a bit. Not bad considering. Right. Not bad. Definitely not a high launching head, which is good.
I'd be interested to see what that one's like.
Okay, so it's good. It's a little bit toey, but the ball speed's fallen off a cliff. So for that one, it doesn't feel unforgiving, but the ball speed's just nosedived. So 143 efficiency, I will sideline that one.
Yeah, as soon as you see one number like that, it's not even worth.
Relative to the others, and that's where if I pull up another screen here, we can kind of go through kind of averages here, and so what we can see, this backs up that forgiveness thing. You've got 148 efficiency with the ping, stealth 2 on 46, so the ball speeds drop down a couple of miles an hour, back up 148 with the Titleist. Actually similar, you can see actually ball speed with the Titleist is strong, 148 with TSR4. It's not ball speed wise that unforgiving, it's that spin side of things for me. 47 with the Paradym, so not quite as hot. 47 with the Mizuno, but the launch angle stands out. 46 with the Aerojet, and then that one, that's just retained the least spin of any of them. So that's where we start to go. Okay, we take those we know we're taking out. We'd have to take that out from a speed point, and then that was that knuckly one on spin, so I'd have to take that out. We'd got to take that out, and I said when we were hitting it, TSR4 I want something more forgiving. Yeah. So there we are between
TSR3 or the G430 LST.
So I will do a couple more hits with each.
Quick question on Instagram, if I can see the screen. What is the biggest benefit you'll see if a composite head, what is the biggest benefit you see if a composite head versus a titanium head of 3-4 years ago? So what's the biggest benefit you see in a composite head versus a titanium head 3-4 years ago?
Well,
John O'Raymond.
With any of the heads now, even you would take Titleist or a all titanium head, it's how much weight they can save in certain areas to move weight around, which makes them more efficient at positioning. The more efficiently they position the weight, the better all across the face it is. The more they can get the weight where they want it to, the better for spin, the better for ball speed, consistency. So off-centre hits is where you're going to see it. Out in the middle, been limited since 2003. So ball speed out the middle doesn't really go up by more than a couple of miles an hour. But as we've just seen there, now granted these are just for me in that batch of hits, it's not going to be across the board for everybody, but that drop off in ball speed, you go back to some of the heads, I guess 5, 6, 7 years ago, if you nut one out the middle, you can get pretty much as good a numbers as any of these, but if you miss one, that's when you really notice it. Now some of it's the gearing, you get more gearing, you get more spin, you get more, toe strike, it's going to loop, knuckle a bit with spin, hook off a bit more, heel strike, it spins up more and you lose more distance. It's that consistency of spin and distance and ball speed that's where they've all improved.
I'm going to go with the TSR3 is going to be the better driver out of the two.
Reasons being?
Reason being that I prefer, I'm looking at the swing dynamics, I'm looking at the face to path value, your heel strike. I think seeing that because obviously all of the dynamics of the swings that you've put on it relative to the spin rates and the ball speeds, I like the fact that you've been a little bit more heely. The spin rate is slightly more up. I think for then sort of getting more of a centered strike. Yeah. I think it's gonna give you just a little bit more ball speed, and I reckon it's almost going to give you a bit more spin, because I think more of a centered strike with a better swing with a less closed face to path, I think it would balance out nicely, and I think it would give you a bit more ball speed. That's where I would see it, but be interesting to see.
One final observation. We have a question. A chap is asking, universal sleeve or real one?
These are all universal, so I can use the same shaft in all of them. So obviously when built, it'll be the real one, and when we're fitting, we'll measure loft to make sure that whatever, because you can't guarantee even kind of production, as in, I mean, from whether it's Pings or Titleist, TaylorMade, sleeve to sleeve, they're going to be exactly the same. The adjustments aren't all exactly the same. But yeah, this one's a Unifit. This is the Club Connect's Unifit system, so that we can keep the shaft exactly the same and just then see the merits of the head, and vice versa.
Yeah, love it.
All right. Oh, I'll let James do a little. So thank you very much to Niels, who's very much our tech kind of go-to guy as well. The top points for the new tech. So really appreciate that, Niels. Thank you very much.
Mark Griffin says generally a slight draw or straight. Well, you definitely need to be refit if that's the shape that you're hitting.
If you're hitting a draw and 3,000 spin at 15 launch, then there's definitely a. Please do come and see me. I'll happily find you a good bit of distance.
Yeah. Peter Cantor, lovely to hear and see you tonight, Peter. In my honest opinion, the
Peter's
ping
apparently hits it as far as we do now, based on what he emailed me the other day.
He
bombing
was
his drive. He's man possessed by all accounts.
I'm so proud of him. He's done so well. In my honest opinion, the ping or the TSR3 results with ping, but find TSR more exciting. In my honest opinion, the ping or the TSR3 results with the ping, but find TSR more exciting. Is ping stability a winning formula for where Simon is taking his game, or does TSR offer more of an upside?
I think if there's both felt pretty stable to me. If there's enough ball speed, if we see that same ball speed gain, I'm not proud. We all want to hit it further.
Yeah.
I just got beaten by a 16-year-old yesterday, who was better than I couldn't touch him. He was too good. Yeah. Freddie Sergey, really impressive young man. Just from a game point of view, control, mental control, just a thoroughly decent bloke as well. Really good fun to play with. Really exciting to see what he can do. Yeah. It's just. Well,
I was going to say, I don't like the fellow already.
Loss, isn't it? You know. At least I was behind after the first round by 2 shots. Shoot 200 and lose by 2 in the first round. Yeah, Christ, that's going to be hard work. Right. Not bitter, though. Right, so that's... We got a little bit of flippy onto it. I'm kind of with these, I'm also going to give these some as well. Okay. A little lower on the face, that one. Good ball speed, though. Yeah. Okay. Let's give that one more. It's still such a stable feel. It's really...
This one?
Right, okay. Quite out of the middle, but that's dropped off a little bit more. Okay, that's a bit necky. More off centre. I'm throwing myself at it a bit more, but okay.
But the spin rate for for the heel strike hasn't gone crazy, has it?
Considering that was quite a lot more than some of the others as well. Yeah. Right.
Let's see where the TSR. You can just imagine Matt Height sitting at home.
He's got his bag of popcorn,
and
probably having that for tea rather than breakfast like he normally does.
Bag of popcorn and a Ribena.
I could just see him laughing and shaking.
Come on, Matt. Check in. Let us hear what you're eating. We want to know what the diet of champions is. The man that hits it 3,000 yards.
A can of Monster and whatever.
Yeah, it'll be a can of Monster. Honestly, our staff room at lunchtime. Goodness me. Energy drinks galore.
Mind you, if a can of Monster got me hitting as far as him,
everyone's on it. Yeah.
All right. Okay. We want to flip the tab over.
Oh, sorry. Matt's just heckled in. I'm glad you said that, Matt. So when you said, Simon, that you were going to give these some, we didn't see an increase in club speed.
No, but I got ball speed up a little further, just down a little bit more left.
Oh yeah, TSR. He said
it's all relative.
He
Mr.
said
Hart.
109.8 club speed. He said in brackets, got to give this some. Actually, give it.
It's all relative. Take pity on the elder folk.
I've just finished my chicken and egg rice. Oh, I like that. Oh, I like that.
Slightly higher on the face.
But no, that's there's nothing to be talked about there.
So club speed's different, isn't it?
It doesn't matter. The fact that the club speed's better.
Flip. I've gone at that and I've flipped it. That's the bad swing.
A little bit necky.
That's ropey. Ropey swing. Right. Can I get one proper one and then we're.
Now, people tuning in, would have seen you go. I don't like seeing it drop down at 1700, 1800.
Yeah.
You've just hit that one out the schnauzer.
Yeah.
Only by 2 millimeters.
Yeah, but that was also.
I know it was a bad swing.
Human error.
Yeah. Okay. So
there's nothing a club can do to.
Whereas the other ones that dropped off like that, you felt it wasn't
slightly
that
toey and
right,
square face.
exactly.
So an open face with that spin was what I got to with the Callaway.
Yeah.
So
I just
if
thought
I
it was
get a club
important.
head to save that shot, then it's spinning to hell and back on a straight one.
Exactly.
So,
But that's why I wanted to bring that point to the fore there.
Right.
That looked nice.
That's the winner right there. Best ball speed. Yeah.
That's going to work. Heights just wants you to start doing shot shaping now.
Okay.
We haven't got time for that, Mike.
What I'm going to do after, so almost as the moment I hit that, I saw the club speed go up, and I knew I hadn't hit it, and the ball speed was as good as the ping.
Yeah.
So.
I think our Titleist rep's watching as well.
Yeah.
TSR
Well, I did.
for me.
Yeah.
Well.
He's been wanting to give me a club all year, so.
Oh, well, that's nice. Didn't give me one.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit my gamer
now. Yeah. And when this goes another 25 yards through the air, it's all
Then
been a waste
then
of time.
Then I'll curse it and get one of those. Just to say, right, that's as much as I've got. That one there, and it's on a really safe spin, and it's, so that's the one where it's a square face. That's as good as I've
Let's
got.
get rid of that.
You just leave it as just driver on that.
Okay. Yeah.
So the old M4 actually worked very well yesterday. So.
Yeah. Still came third though, didn't you?
Yeah, but I hit it. Yeah, but I hit it 345 up to the 17th. So.
No, it's cracking effort. Cracking.
I'm going to learn from that loss and move
cracking
forward
effort.
from it.
Cracking effort.
Right. Okay. So that's a good start. And it's beaten that one.
Biggest club speed so far.
But the one thing I would say, it's got my grip on size,
Yep.
the ridge down the back.
Yep.
It's this has been really dialed in over the matter of a few years. So. It's hit well.
Yeah, that was
A little bit more open on these actually.
interesting.
Yeah, so actually the other one just squaring through a little bit better. I'll give it the one last one, but
Go one last one and go straight back to this and hit this one.
okay. Yeah, I'm coming off that a little bit more. It's interesting.
Yeah. Honestly, you're swinging that nowhere near as good as the TSR that you've just been swinging.
Funny, because I would have put money on me going back to that and just lasering them down the middle.
Really? Interesting. Drive of champions, the TSR3.
Flipped it. That's swing line fine. That's just fatigue, I think. But interesting though, that one could feel it doing that a little bit more.
Yeah,
definitely opening up a little bit more. And for me, the less I've got to fetch it, the better. So if I should be able to just keep my hands really quiet on this and just leave it square, which is ideal for me. Yeah. So I don't have to square it.
Killed it.
Which I've got used to. I thinned that a bit, but I got used to having to square it, I think, with that.
Nice.
So, and only because Matt asked, I'll see if I can hit the fade. So this would be my irresponsible tee shot on the 18th of St George's Hill, trying to fade it.
Never driver up the 18th
No.
at St George's.
Winter when it plugs, maybe.
Sorry?
Yeah, that's more under control, that.
Little Virginia.
Yeah.
Look at that.
So.
Well, we have a winner. We have a winner. The Titleist TSR.
We have a winner, and maybe it shows that, or clearly shows that Matt knows what he's talking about, which is reassuring.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Is swing weight much different? So
Game
swing weight on the SYNYSTR shaft is D3.6, 3.7, and on my current one is D3.6, 3.7. So identical swing weight. I mean, it's not a massive surprise that they're very similar. Total weight, 30. It's 5 grams lighter. Total weight. Now the grip's a couple of grams lighter. There's a few grams either way, but very, very similar. Funkier colour-wise.
Well, welcome to
quite appropriate with my general dress sense. But no, I think quite interesting. I think most interesting going back and forth between those two was how noticeably that not having to do as much with the club face.
Yeah.
So that's something that'll help me not have to fetch. It's something I'm doing with the irons much better now, but yeah, it means not having to adjust as much. And having that fade in there, I don't mind the fade. I think Neil's made a comment about spin. One of them was low on the face, but that one fade, I don't mind that one spinning. That's yeah, that's fine. That was a decent size fade, but yeah, contact of all speed still there, and I've got the control over it. But we knew that from last week anyway. So
you got a bit of a dab on them.
Yeah. That's, how many drivers in a row is that?
Yeah, well, it's a
Quite
fair
a few.
amount. It's got to be 30 or 40, 35. Brilliant. Yeah. So TSR, welcome to the TSR club.
TSR, yeah, TSR 3 8 degree.
Yeah.
And I'll measure the exact loft.
I'd love to be able to hit an 8 degree driver. I'm 11 myself. That looks like a putter to me. So absolutely no interest in that at all. Yeah. Well done. Well, hopefully you've enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Simon has once again flexed his knowledge and expertise, not only as a fitter but as a golfer as well. No, seriously, seriously, you're the best in the business at what you do. You can back it up with a really good game as well, and I think we're very privileged to have some of your knowledge, being able to share it with everyone out there watching in. Hopefully you enjoyed this little filling process. We're going to be back next Monday, 6 p.m. This is a regular spot of ours. If you have questions or anything you want answered from tonight's live, they can just drop it in the comments below.
Yeah. And any questions either during or in between fittings, anything you want us to look at, or if you have a question you want us to answer, it doesn't have to be sent in during the sessions. Anytime, we'll do our best to get to them. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, if you haven't done so already, do hit the like button, share and subscribe, and Simon and I will see you next time.